Oh, my voice is gone, ladies and gentlemen. What a weekend it was. Welcome to another episode of the Going Over podcast. It is I, your neighborhood friendly coach, trainer, promoter, 44-year-old professional wrestler, Zach Primetime Reeb, and I'm joined alongside another man who joined me at the Hall of Fame last night. What a weekend. My podcast partner, the Wrecking Ball, Paul Isadora. Paul, what's up, my friend?
Oh man, it is. This was the weekend, man, that sacrifices had to be made. It was, let's see, Thursday night, 9 o'clock basketball game. Get up at 3 a.m. Friday night, 9 o'clock basketball game. Get up at 2 a.m. Go to work. Get off work. Go to Sacramento. Play basketball. Coach basketball. Head to the Hall of Fame. Drive home from the Hall of Fame. Get up at 3 a.m. Go to work. And then I was like, man, I gotta take a nap, man, before we can podcast, because this is my stretch, man, of stuff that I was things that I was looking forward to, but I knew was gonna be brutal, man, on my sleep patterns and things like that. But this is the first Hall of Fame that I've been to, man. So it was I didn't
Really?
yeah, so I wasn't sure what it was supposed to what it was going to be like. And I was thinking about it today. I didn't know exactly the reasoning behind why this is my first one. Like, why haven't I gone before? I guess in the past, I didn't know. I don't know if I knew if I was welcome, if if I like kind of was allowed to come. Like I didn't know what the circumstances were. Like what is the criteria behind being able to go and sharing this thing, because I think the majority of the time, especially when it was earlier on in my career, I didn't know most of the people that were being inducted. So it's like I wasn't sure, but then obviously you watch the Hall of Fame ceremonies for WWE and you see everyone there, right? You see the young guys. Obviously it's a little bit more production and things like that, where they're telling you who these people are, focusing on them and their families and, different things like that. But a lot of times I wasn't, I didn't know, like, obviously we said invitation only on this one, so that was one of the things I thought. It was like, oh, well, it's just for, family and friends of these people that were getting inducted and things like that. And that led me to another question, which was, is there a list of everyone that is in the NorCal Hall of Fame, what years they got inducted, things like that? Because I'd be interested to see who all's in there. Sparky Ballard's got it. And then maybe a more important question. I was curious, like, what's the criteria to get in to the Hall of Fame? Like, what does that entail? Who decides that? I know, like, with WWE, you figure like it's a Triple H, it was a Vince McMahon, sounds like a Nick Khan, different people have influential people have the ability to get someone in, nominate them or whatever. What is the nomination process when it comes to the NorCal Hall of Fame? Because I don't think you would say like, like obviously Adam, being the headliner. And I don't know how many times I heard people say like, this, he's belonged in there for years and all this different stuff. It's like, like what's the criteria for it? Because, and I know there's a bunch of people that are in it that are still active pro wrestlers. So So what is
That's
the
what we,
criteria? Do you have any
that's what
idea?
we talked. That's what we had talked about, right, on the podcast, which led to all this. What was, there was Oliver John, there was Big Ugly, there was Flacco Loco, there was Boyce Legrand, Sir Samurai. There's so many people that have already gone in that are still actively wrestling, and Adam was a no-brainer.
Of course.
That was the criteria right there. Like, that was the criteria. As I said, how come, at the event, I said, how come we haven't done this in 4 years? And, shitballs Rick, and we call him shitballs Rick because you know what a shitball is, right? That's somebody who doesn't wipe front to back. They wipe back to front. So they get shit all over their balls. So as I said that, you heard shit. I literally watched the blind man put his hand up over his mouth like this and not even look my way and go, because I moved. And I was like, oh man. They're lucky there were kids there last night. But then Drake got up there and Adam got up there, and they were dropping F bombs and cussing. And I'm like, man, next time I get up there, I'm not holding back, man. The dick cum and asshole jokes are gonna they're coming hard, brother. But that's the criteria. I mean, I think you can honestly look around and say, me, you know, Oliver John, Big Ugly, J.R. Kratos, Vince DeMarco, Sparky. I mean, just any of these guys that have been around for a while. It's a respect thing. Sparky and Rick already, because Sparky stayed here last night, and Rick just literally called me. I don't know how he knew we were about to do the podcast, but he was like, did you talk to Sparky? Here's who the headliner is for next year. And I said, yeah, no doubt about it, right? And I don't even want to give it away on here. I'll talk to you afterwards. But I mean, that's the criteria is right there. It was Adam. And if we're going to bring this thing back and do it like we did, one thing I heard last night was, man, that was, the venue, the setup, the tables, the screens, everything, and it's, big shout out go to John Cooper, Michelle Reno, Tanya Colburn, Melody Welch, all the kids that help, everybody else. It was just a long weekend for me, man. And it was one, like today at practice, massive practice today, right? Like Vince and Sparky were there. Everybody showed up. It was even people I hadn't seen in a while were there. It was just a massive practice. So it was like Young Lions Cup, Prospect Cup on Friday, Hall of Fame on Saturday. And then this event, we had to set the ring back up and everything. And this weekend was a good barometer for my company on who's going to be there and who's not. You know what I mean? It was a very good barometer. We had fun after the event, everything else. It's just a very long weekend. And seeing all you guys walk in the door, I pretty much told every one of my students that showed up, which was really good for them. I said, behind that door is everything that you'll need in the wrestling business. You know what I mean? It'd be where you train at. Behind this door, it's like opening up a door and it's this magical kingdom for one night. And it was just incredible. And, I just can't stop thinking about what, I didn't know how long Adam was going to speak. I didn't know how long he was going to speak for. And my God, man, he ran it all down, man. It was an amazing recap of from when I started to this point. And I know you said just a minute ago, and I'll quit being so long-winded right here. I'm just very excited and tired all in one, which is a weird feeling. But you said he should have been in there years ago. Well, they haven't done it in 4 years. So the best who actually did have to retire before he was ready should have been inducted 2-3 years ago, but it wasn't happening. So to be able to make those plaques, to be able to honor everybody and make those graphics and see Adam and Bobby up there and see Vince and Killer Jay and Dana Lee's brother Don, and just to see everybody really emotional and shedding tears, and it made me realize, like, we did a good thing, man. We did a really good thing this whole weekend.
Absolutely. So I guess as you were talking, I'm wondering is that venue, is that big enough? Is it Is it a big enough venue to do it? The way that you just described it, and obviously the memories that I have of that night already, was that it seemed like the perfect venue, right? With all the TVs and all that stuff, where you had the screens and you had, I felt like you had enough room for a lot of people. But in the future, do you make that bigger? Do you make it more of a production? Do you have it where fans can come and things like that? And and do you make it where you make it a ticket price too? You make a ticket price, and then and that funds something. I was just telling my daughters today just about like you don't know how much effort, time, money that you personally put into this event. It's like, and I don't know if that's supposed to be kayfabe or whatever, but I know I know Adam thanked you before, during, after the event for what you did, man. Like, just the selflessness that you put into this event to make it special. My daughter, one of my other daughters, obviously that loves pro wrestling and loves our scene and has seen all these people, wasn't there. And she was like, I wasn't sure if I was allowed to come. I know all these people. I know it was invitation only. Like, and I was like, oh, it would have been fine. You could have came, but and I was just like, they put this event on, and I don't know all the logistics, but it's like there were, obviously tables, chairs, tablecloths, all this stuff. Like, you're putting together a wedding reception type of, all the stuff that goes into that, the food, the plaques and all this stuff. I said, Zach shouldered all this himself. And that's not, in my mind, that's not how it should have been. There should be a ticket price, right? You pay to come, you pay to, pay your respects. And then that goes to fund the next one. Right. So I don't know, like I said, that venue felt perfect last night, but does it need to be bigger? Do you need to invite fans? Do fans need to be able to come and listen to the stories and get, because after last night, I feel like I learned so much more about our scene that I knew, than what I knew before. Right. And, obviously I had met Dana Lee, a couple times in passing. It was never like I was buddies with him or anything like that. But I knew who he was and, all these different things. But something that really stuck out was his brother was talking about how, in life, some things were, some things weren't clear. But the one language that everyone spoke was wrestling. And, that was the thing that made everything make sense and all this different stuff. It's like, when there's, it's this thing that connects us all, right? And it's something so special. It's the international language, right? We talk about that all the time. People are like, how'd you wrestle this guy when you guys don't speak the same language? Like, we do speak the same language. We speak wrestler, we're pro wrestlers, so we're bonded by that, and it's this bond that nobody knows about. And I heard that a few times last night. Like, nobody knows what it's like to be a pro wrestler except for us, so I feel like it wouldn't give any secrets away or anything like that, but it would also give a little bit of insight for these fans on, what these people are like outside of the persona that you see in the ring and things like that. So long-winded on my part. I apologize, but I told you today.
Go long-winded today, man.
Well, that's what I told you. I told you today. You were talking about the prospect. Oh, I've got all this stuff, and I was like, dude, we're gonna go an hour on the Hall of Fame and not cover everything. So, but yeah, man, like thoughts about last night for you. Like I have a few other things that I wanted to share as well, but I don't want to take up all the time me talking. You know,
And that's fine. That's fine. I'm gonna have to get another cup of coffee. Is what I'm gonna have to do. I'm gonna have to call. I'm gonna have to reach in on the right arm over here and call in the favor for another cup of coffee so I can stay on this damn thing. Greatest weekend of my life up to this point. And what I mean by that was it doesn't matter, man. I mean, if we want to talk about the technicalities and give the right thing, yeah, I went and got the plaques. You know, the rent that I've had to pay on that office to keep that building where it's at, blah, blah, blah. You know, thank you to the Olive Garden, I believe, for donating the salad and the bread, the salad and the bread. You know, thank all the guys for bringing sodas and waters, and you know, Michelle Reno for getting all the cloths and the centerpieces, and Melody Welch, Dickie Dakin's mom, for doing the balloon arch, which was an amazing touch with the TV behind it. Everybody got so many pictures and, you know, got the plaques, but none of that matters, man. Does it get bigger? Yes, it gets bigger. It's the fucking NorCal Hall of Fame. Of course it's gonna get bigger. Do wrestlers and their significant others and everyone else, do they pay for this thing? Yes. Hold on. Yes. Do wrestlers and everywhere? No, they don't. But do the fans? Yeah. The plates become bigger. A t-shirt, you know, fans need to come. They need to hear these stories. That venue was perfect, but that venue doesn't host it again next year because it's gonna be bigger. We're gonna make it bigger. The first Saturday of December is the NorCal Hall of Fame. Okay. And I thought it was amazing, man. Just sitting back, man, I was all smiles. And one thing that I've told myself, I mean, you could wake up in a pissy mood, right? You could wake up and just, yeah, mad at the world. I'm going to complain. That's going to be your day, man. Or you can wake up and you can smile and you can have a good day. And whether, you know, well, just, oh, man, there's so much to cover, man. One thing I loved hearing was Adam saying, you know, Drake was joking around, Flacco with an unbelievable introduction for him, just a class act that guy is. But, you know, he's saying, hey, if I came across as an asshole, we talked about it this morning, right? I'm just passionate. I'm passionate about the business. I'm passionate about the business. You're passionate about the business. You know, listening to Bobby Hart, listening to Rick say, Bobby's a terrible promoter, but damn it, Bobby was, you know, brought in names, man. Bobby had the blueprint before anybody had the blueprint and the creative ideas to do what he did. And then Rick says, but he's a terrible promoter. I'm like, dick, you know what I mean? Like, and there was a lot of those great moments, man. It was great to share a lot of moments, you know. We did the King of Indies thing and we didn't really have anybody to bring up for the King of Indies thing. And I remember talking to JR, and JR really wanted to tell this story about Adam and the first pair of boots he got. I had a good conversation with him, and JR kept apologizing to me, going, hey man, sorry I switched the subject over there. I'm like, no, that's why I called you up. We didn't really have anybody to talk too much about the King of Indies, which I did after he got off stage, but I wanted him to be able to tell that, have that moment and tell that story, because that's what it is, man. It's about the moments, you know. Venice DeMarco up there, thank you. He was very intense, right? He was very intense when he was up there and talking about Dana Lee. And then Killer J was, you know, very quiet and great story. But there was just so much going on last night, and everybody had a good time. And to me, that's what it's about. We talk about bringing it together. We brought it together, man. I had an amazing night last night. I was able to leave where everybody was afterwards, and we just came home. I was like, it's cold outside. I'm tired. I'm ready to go home. This is as good as it gets for me. You know what I mean? And then we got up today, and up again early and putting the ring back in. And it's a lot of work. It is a lot of work. But I've been doing shows for 26 years. I got a graphic guy. Thank you, Buck James. I got Doc Haywood, who's always on the thing. I was sitting up there and we were doing the 10 bell salute. And I go, Doc, 10, and he peeks through the curtain like the Wizard of Oz. And he's like, I never loaded one up. And I'm like, oh, so now I feel like a dickhead, right? I was about to do the dinging myself. And then he's like, but we have a bell back here. I'm like, who is that? Who is that man behind the curtain? And then he came out afterwards and he was like, why would I load up a 10 bell salute? I said, I told you to load it up. And we were just out there talking shit to each other. But Doc Haywood, man, selfless, because he was supposed to help host the show, right? And then we didn't have anyone to run the slides. And then he's like, I'm not going to ask any of our students to hold a GoPro tonight. I think they deserve to have a good time. So I went up to one of the students and that usually does the filming. And I said, hey, man, do you want to film this event so we can get it out there? Or do you want to have a good time tonight? And he's like, I'll do whatever you need me to do, Zach. But he said, I'd really like to have a good time tonight. And that's what it is. It's the end of the year. Have a good time. That's why the balloon arch was there. You know what I mean? That's why the photos were there. People got enough footage on their phone. Share the stuff. Have fun, man. It wasn't something that I was trying to recap and make a profit on YouTube for. It was something that we had a blast doing it, man. It was great to be around and see everybody and do that. And man, we'll do it again. It's going to get bigger. It's got to get bigger because Northern California wrestling, like I said last night, man, ride or die, bro. I've been all over, but this right here, ride or die. I'm gonna get it right here next. NorCal right there on those babies, so I can go like that. And what's up? Let's do this because I believe in this. And one thing that I wanted you to talk about, there were some good stories last night too, but Flacco, as I mentioned the story of how it wasn't cool to wrestle anywhere else but your own promotion back in the day. And I was looking around the room and a lot of old heads were like, oh yeah. And then Flacco came up and it's like, Adam was a trendsetter because, me and him had a little beef for a while because he started out here and then he went there and Adam didn't give a shit about the I'm going to wrestle for SPW. I'm going to wrestle for this company. Adam was like, no, I'm going to wrestle wherever the fuck I want to wrestle and fuck all of you. And that's the thing about the guy is not only is he a trendsetter, but he didn't give a fuck what you thought about him, man. And he really was passionate about the business. He wanted to go out there and give you everything he had. And that was the cool part about him, man. I saw Ugly's blog. I talked to a lot of people afterwards. I talked to a lot of people today and they loved it. They loved it. And, I talked to you. You said you had a great, you sent me that message on your way home with those terrible sleep hours you had. But yeah, man, it's going to be big. And the money doesn't matter and stuff like that. Who cares how much was spent? Because it's like, everybody deserves those moments, man. Everybody deserves to have a nice plaque. Everybody deserves to have their family there. And why wouldn't you want your family there to meet all these people that you have spent more time with sometimes than you do your own family, man? So I'm glad you had a good time. I'm glad Adam got to do that in front of his wife and his kids. Seeing Adam hug everybody, seeing all the people that came out for Bobby and how much Bobby loved it, and Bobby thanked me for that, and just seeing all those people there, man, like it made me realize the NorCal Hall of Fame is a big fucking deal. So we need to treat it like it's a big deal, and that's what we were talking about on this podcast, man. This is a big deal. It can't not be unimportant. And if somebody's got to foot the bill, let's make this as big as we can make this, man. Let's get this big. And I'm blessed and I'm honored that I was able to take it over, because I'm not gonna loosen these reins on this thing, and I'm gonna do it the right way. And I love when people call me. I love when I talk to Ugly. I love when you, Sparky, Rick, whoever. I love when you guys call me on the phone and say, hey, this is who I think should be in it. I want every wrestler to call me and tell me who they should be in it and why. Because why not? fuck, man. This last weekend, it is a big deal. I'll stop there. Sorry.
No, I mean it absolutely is a big deal, man. And I think that's something that and I told you, I told my daughters, like I learned so much about these different people, right? And their connections to other people that I knew. And, I was kind of trying to explain it like, well, you might not have known these people. And my daughter that was there with me was telling my other daughter about the event. And, my daughter's like, oh, I recognize a lot of these names, because, she was talking about when she was growing up and she was watching wrestling and the people that she knew, and she had mentioned Mustafa and Adam had talked about the huge role that Mustafa played in making Adam not only the wrestler but the man that he is. He gave us the kind of the ground rules of things that you do and the way that you conduct yourself and just the way that the scene is meant to be and how to go into situations and not getting taken advantage of and stand your ground and things like that. And a story stood out to me. I don't think Adam talked about it. He referenced if you go somewhere and someone's not going to pay you, you don't wrestle. And I remember vividly him talking about, I feel like it was him and Corey and Malachi, or it was several guys went to a show and the promoter started off with the house is light and blah, blah, blah. And they're like, well, fuck it. Well, we're not wrestling tonight then. It's like, oh, come on, guys. Like, you're already here. They're like, well, we don't give a fuck. You're not paying us. We're not wrestling on your show, and that was something, instilled in him through Mustafa, like you don't give away your services for free. When someone promises you that they're going to pay you a certain amount of money, and we've talked about that on this podcast, right? You don't, as a promoter, go, hey, I'm going to give you this much money, and then the day of the show say, hey, I'm not going to give you that money. Or there shouldn't be those conversations where you don't know walking into the door what you're going to get paid, right? So those lessons that came from Mustafa, and obviously my daughter talking about, that was one of the names that she remembers seeing when she was young, and the Malachis, and he had talked about him and Corey wrestling Rick and Malachi early on, and that was like kind of setting the foundation of guys that you're going to wrestle, and you're going to get those opportunities to wrestle guys that are the Downings.
Crichton and Malachi Downing. That's how Malachi got his name. That's funny.
Right. So it's just hearing the stories and being able to kind of connect the dots was, such a cool experience for me. Like, never, I never saw those two tag together. Either way, I don't think I ever saw Adam and Corey tag together. I never saw Rick and Malachi tag together, but I had heard all the stories of them wrestling each other on road trips, right? So, it was just kind of cool to kind of connect those dots throughout that night, man. And just, I don't know, and, you learn the stories of, Rick, how he met Bobby, and, and I remember different, like, I thought there was some video of Bobby Hart, real early on, I don't remember the whole circumstance, but the scene that they had back in the day, which I feel like it was like a big backyard wrestling scene that was captured on video, and kind of the beginnings of that, and all of these things were like, bringing back those memories of all of these things, you're watching happen, and things that were happening in the Colonial Theater early on. And I got to take part in some of that back in the day. And, thinking about those different memories, and was just, made that night just so much more special, because being able to draw, those connections to all those different things. And, and then obviously listening about Flacco kind of being the neutral guy, right? That he was like, he's going to try to get all these people to work together somehow, right? So I don't know, man. I enjoyed just listening to the stories of how everything was back in the day, and and I feel like when I broke in, it was a little bit of that. I know for sure the whole BTW thing was like very that was the narrative was, oh well, those guys only wrestle each other, and they only wrestle on those shows, and you're not going to see them outside of that promotion, and all these different things. And don't wrestle here because these guys are backyarders, and all the politics and bullshit that went into all that stuff, where you could have had just a mixing of all these different talents, right? You could have had these different matchups early on, that you finally got to see, years later. But you would always wondered about who's better between these different guys, and what kind of match could these guys put together if they had crossed promotion lines and had a match or whatever. So just so many cool little things. And you had talked about not knowing how long Adam was going to go and things like that, but you definitely got a sense of and we had talked about how he said about most people thought I was an asshole or whatever, but you just mistaked me being an asshole for me being passionate about professional wrestling, right? And I thought it was just so interesting, because we talk about it all the time. We're passionate about pro wrestling, and I think Adam just he put it in perspective for everyone to understand, right? I'm passionate about this because my goal is to make a living off of this, right? I look at this as a job, right? Yeah, I want to get signed and all this stuff. And, at some point, if you're looking at it as a job and you see other people are not taking it as serious as you're like, fuck that guy, right? You're making a joke out of what I want to do for a living, right? Because 100%. You're not taking it, So, and I just remember how much shit we used to get for, you would call it fat shaming, but how we would always just be in shape, right? Because you never knew when you were going to get an opportunity to get seen. Adam is, is known for always saying I don't need to get ready when I'm always ready, right? Always being in shape, always being ready to be seen by whoever was looking for talent, whoever was looking to sign people, always being in ring shape, physical shape, having gear, all the different things that we talk about so many times about what makes you look like you take this seriously. You want to look like a pro wrestler, and Adam was that guy, man, that was always in shape, always looked like a pro wrestler, always attention grabbing, right? The guy that would come to the curtain, and if you were talking to someone, if you were doing something else, it was a guy that got your attention and you wanted to go, oh, hold on, I got to see this guy, right? Because it was just like he just came into the room and drew attention. So, for him to be putting things into perspective like that, I took this so seriously, And if I was ever a dick to you, I apologize, but just understand my passion for making this a career, my drive for getting to that next level, and being the guy that, you know, made it out of this area. And, you know, him talking about how he progressed from what he was in Northern California, I think he said the first quarter of his career or whatever, before he decided, hey, I'm going to go to Oklahoma, I'm going to go to Texas, and all these different things. And I don't know, just the story that he was talking about doing the standing moonsaults as a heel, right? And getting a fucking just terrible shit reaction, no reaction, in fact. And the guy's going, hey, you know, you can't do that as a heel. You know, these fans don't give a shit about the cool moves. They give a shit about you being a heel and you irritating them and you taking shortcuts and playing the character of the heel. They don't care about your flippy moves and you showing off and all this stuff. And, you know, just getting the learning experience out of that, and being willing to do that, being willing to take yourself cross country, to learn. I don't want to say a different style, but it's the way that they did it in that area. You know, he said he didn't call matches in the back. They just went out and they fucking worked, right? They called it off the hip. They called it in the ring. You hear so many people say it, you know, oh, we'll call it out there. And, you know, that just reminds me of the memories of how Ugly used to have the legitimate lethal lottery at the Colonial, and just having people going, no, really, who am I wrestling tonight? It's like, no, really, it's a legit lottery.
Yeah,
Your name is gonna get picked out of a hat, and someone else's name is gonna get picked out of the hat, and then you guys are gonna go wrestle each other. And just how frightened everybody got when that was the case. And it was always like, you know, this is to test your mettle, man, to see, you know, are you really the pro wrestler that you think you are, or that you're telling people that you are? We'll call it in the ring type of guy. And I just remember how much of a challenge that was, man. And you'd go out there and you'd do it. And, you know, there was an Ugly versus Corey Dayton match it was the first one of those that I had ever seen. Pulled the names out of the hat, and I was like, all right, these are guys that I know. You know, guys, you know, obviously I trained with Corey. I had seen Ugly work and all this different stuff. It's like, you know, this is where you get to showcase your ability to be a good pro wrestler. So, you know, for him to talk about that type of stuff and getting to that point where, you know, I had this skill set. Now I learned this other skill set where I had to go out there and just call it in the ring and be good enough to do that. And I remember, you know, wrestling Adam at APW and getting lost, and him just grabbing onto my wrist and taking himself to the rope, you know, and calling a spot in that situation, right? Where I was like, okay, so now he's putting me in the right spot to do what he wants me to do. And it just reminded me, you know, the back in the day where, you know, Ric Flair would put himself in a headlock and, you know, take himself to the ropes and shoot the guy off. And, you know, it was like, okay, this is what the old school guys did. You know, these guys didn't have to talk to each other. They're in different locker rooms, all this different stuff. It was all like, you know, that's how they did this stuff. You know, they were out there listening to the crowd. They did all the, you know, all the stuff that we talk about, learning how to do, be good enough to do this stuff. But just learning, you know, just listening to the, you know, how his career path developed. And, you know, obviously I'd been in the car with this guy for, you know, hundreds and hundreds of hours listening to all types of stories, but some of these things slipped through the cracks, right? I never got to hear some of these stories. And so some of those things were super interesting and exciting. But I'll let you go, man. I'm just uh, on a tangent.
That's good. We know it's perspective. It's the different perspective of what's going on in this thing. Like Adam has a way he looks at it. I got a way of how I look at it. Ugly looks at it a way. Ollie looks at it a way. But you have to realize it's how someone is going to it's how someone is going to relate best to the student, to the wrestler, so that they understand. It's like I had the big student, the big tall student that was there with his family last night, and I introduced you guys, and I kept saying, hey, this is a guy right here that I want you to really to talk to, because he's tall and he's got those long legs, but he's so athletic. And that's what I remember about you. And I was just talking to Bad News about it today, was like Paul could get clotheslined over the top rope, and he hooks that top rope and goes over backwards faster and more athletic than little guys, cruiserweights. Last time we saw him, because Bad News was there at Next Level, you took the superplex from Luster off the top rope and he dove through the middle at you, and it was like, man, you guys really went out there and cooked it up. And I told you guys after, I said, man, I'd book that one any night of the week, you know what I mean? And they just got it for free in front of 40 fans in this little garage, man. Adam was talking about how special Gym Wars was. It was special, man. We all went to Gym Wars and didn't make shit for money, because I said it up there when I said that roster, man, that roster between PCW and APW that was working together with Gym Wars and the Bay Area, like that whole time right there really blew the scene up. You know what I mean? Here comes Fog City. Here comes a Gold Rush. Here comes a revolution as Gabe bounces off. Like, no matter whether you want to admit it or not, it's not about being egotistical. If you don't admit it, then you're being egotistical. It was we wanted to get better. We all wanted to get better. We had a standard. We had guys we liked to work, and we had places we liked to go. And everybody, that's what I really enjoyed last night. That's why I was calling out the people in NorCal. And it was like, I pointed at Ollie, I pointed at Ugly, I pointed at Kratos, I pointed at Flacco. Kratos is a lot younger than the guys that I was pointing at, but he also came through the same system and has found a lot of success along the way at other places, which he should get his name mentioned in that pantheon of greats. You know what I mean? Sparky Ballard, Venice DeMarco. I pointed at you. There was Bobby Hart over there, Rick Luxury. There was a lot of people that have been very influential in Northern California wrestling. And I've been here, there was that generation there, that was that 10-year gap before us. And this is what this was like. All those guys, including you, that I pointed at when I was on stage, you're looking at it and you're going, man, before that it was Modest and all those guys, you know what I mean? And then this is that era of guys right here. And then there's the next 10 years down, and it's where does this thing go from here? That's the cool thing, is you see Ugly, you see Ollie, you see all these different representations and schools and stuff we have around here. And there's so many people that couldn't go to this thing because we put it together like a month and a half before it happened. You know what I mean? So I'm excited to see next year, man. I just sat back and really enjoyed what was going on. Like, you could see me in so many different spots. I was over here where my seat was, where I started. Then I was over by Drake at the end. Then I was under the curtain talking to Doc. And that's one thing I wanted to say too, when I was talking about Doc earlier and I got all rambled up about the Bell thing, was he was supposed to host a show with me, and just how selfless this guy was, that he didn't want to ask any of the students to film it like an event. And he said, you just go up there and talk and do your thing, and I will run the slideshow. So he was willing to, he dressed up. He was willing to give up what he thought he was being asked to do for the night. And that's the most selfless thing that you can do, and that I saw in that night, man. And I'm glad you were able to be there, and I'm glad your daughter was able to come with you, especially so you didn't have to ride alone. And I'm glad that, it sucks that your other daughter didn't come, because she was more than welcome too, man. It was like a lot of people were asking me, can I come to this event? And I'm like, yeah, man. I sent out a lot of invites, and I didn't even get a lot of responses, was the thing. So like a lot of people that I knew or I talked to in the past didn't even respond back with I can't go or go. And to me, it's just like, in all honesty, man, in all honesty, some of them responded with, well, what's the date? Because I didn't send the graphic at first, and I literally didn't send the date in, but I didn't get a response after that. So it's just like, I mean, are we really even acquaintances in a sense that you couldn't even respond back? You had enough time to respond back to say, what's the date, or heart it, but you didn't respond with, no, I can't be there. I can be there. So to all the people that showed up, thank you very much. To the people that responded back to me but couldn't show up because they had a booking, thank you for responding back to me. For the people that hearted me or said I didn't see the date, or just fucking looked at it and didn't even respond to it, respectfully, you know what I mean? Because if somebody that I know, whether they like me or not, or I like them or not, was to send me a message to say, hey, do you want to be on my show, or I'm inviting you to this thing, and my face dropped down on it, the little circle, and I looked at it and didn't respond, I mean, I would basically be telling you to go fuck yourself. You know what I mean? That's what I would be telling you. I'd be like, hey, you know what, man? You reached out to me to ask me something out of respect, and I didn't even have the decency to send you back a middle finger emoji. So, I mean, in that sense, that's what's wrong with where we're at. That's what's wrong with the scene. There's some bad seeds that run around in this area. So you look like a weird ghost figure over here. I don't know if I look like that back, but you look like you're right out of
Your
the
lighting is always great, but I have this weird. I have a
No,
light
you're
in front.
blurry.
Yeah. So I don't. Hopefully, it'll be good when we post this. That I'm not blurry, but
Shake it a little bit.
I think people just listen to this and how they look at us, right? I always hear people say, I listen to it in the gym, I listen to it in the car, I listen to it from here to there, things like that.
So they won't see that if I'm referring to.
Oh, some people will, but some people will just listen to it. Some people, this is. I know it's a visual podcast, it's a video podcast, but I think a lot of people listen to this, to get through their day or whatever. But man, as you're talking, I was thinking about the story that Dennis DeMarco was telling about him and Dana Lee not getting along, right?
Shake that camera for me. See if you can move it a little bit. You're cutting out. There you go.
Man.
No,
I don't know.
Yep, there you are. There we are.
How he was talking about people not getting along, but the professionalism of pro wrestling not allowing you to do anything less than your best in the ring, right? Was just a reminder, right? You don't have to be friends with everybody that you wrestle, right? You don't have to be best buddies. You don't even have to like these people, right? But we're all on the same page. We all signed up for the same thing, right? We signed up for go out there, put on the best performance that you can, and most importantly, keep your opponent safe, right? And I thought that was like I don't know, man. It's just one of those things we don't normally think about, right? You think about all the things that, like, you don't like wrestler A, you don't like wrestler B, whatever. You talk shit about this guy. But if the case comes along where you wrestle this person for some reason, we all have this in us that we just go out there and we're professional and we do the right thing and we put on a great match. And we come back to it. It just made me laugh just thinking about the visual, right? You walk into the building. This is someone that you don't speak to. You talk about your match. You go out there. You do your match. You come back through the curtain, and now you don't speak to this person again. You know, like how ridiculous is that? You know, to think about that. You go from not talking to someone to going out and having a physical contest where, you know, your safety is in my hands and my safety is in your hands. And we go out and we get it done. We put on a great show. We put on a good match. And as soon as we cross the threshold of the curtain, we thank each other for the match. You turn around and you walk opposite directions and you don't speak to each other again. You know, it's just, I can't think of any other situation where that type of thing would happen. But it just goes to show you that this brotherhood that we have graciously been invited to be a part of is so special, man. It's this crazy bond that we have that we can go out there and we can do this thing, man, regardless if we're friends or not. You like someone, you don't like someone. A promoter's paying you to do the job, right? And you go out there and you do the job that you're paid to do, and with a smile on your face, regardless if you like this person or not. So I thought that was a great lesson. Just listening to that, you know, obviously you're glad that that those guys patched it up, but just a crazy lesson to think about that type of stuff, man. Like I said before, man, this was going to be an opportunity for us to talk about the NorCal Hall of Fame. We were going to get an hour out of this, and we're going to have so much more to talk about. But any other takeaways in the last 7.5 minutes that we have to talk about, which I know is also going to go super fast. But any other takeaways that you thought like something stood out, or story that you didn't know about, or something that just popped you or made you laugh or anything like that?
Well, I liked when I liked when Adam was looking for one of his kids, and he couldn't find him, and he looked over at the balloon arch in the curtain, and Bad News was standing there, decked to the nines, and he says, "Corey, go get my fucking kid." And then all of a sudden,
go bang on the door. He's sick of this shit. Get him out here.
yeah, and then you see Bad News just whoop, slip away very fast. You know what I mean? So that was funny to me. I mean, Drake Nelson, man, he was hilarious. That guy doesn't care. I was worried about dropping F-bombs, and he goes up there and starts telling a bunch of I shit my pants stories. And I mean, we forget, like, if you're bringing kids to these events, do we really have to keep it PG? Do we really have to put earmuffs on? Like, you're bringing kids to a room full of professional wrestlers. Some of them are having some spirits, and everybody's we're gonna get a little rowdy. You know what I mean? We're gonna say some things that probably aren't that a little above PG-13, but I don't know, man. It was just one of those things where it was just I just had a great time. My takeaway from the weekend was a lot of great people were around at the Prospect Cup, and we did 9 matches in an hour and 54 minutes. So I was very proud of all those guys, all those young guys last night, and the amount of people we had. And I'm interested to hear the commentary with Doc Alumide and Drake Nelson. I thought Manny Roa did a great job backstage producing. I rep 4 matches, and Andrew Cass blew me up as a referee, man. He was all over the place, and in the 3 matches he wrestled, and I was blown up. I had to completely change the way I reffed. because I was like, God, I'm trying to move around too fast with this kid. And I'm sweating my ass off, man. So I ref 4 matches. Aiden Andrews and Cass, 5 minutes remaining in this podcast. They wrestled uh 3 matches. I ref 4, up and down and counting, man. I limped out of the building. I limped out of the fucking building from refereeing, man. That was very tough. Much respect to all the referees out there. I've ref before, but I never ref 4 in one night. So I thought the cup was great, man. Had a lot of fun doing that. I'm so proud of everybody for getting 9 matches out of the way in an hour and 54 minutes, which made it perfect. Everybody followed their times and everything well. The Hall of Fame was just an unbelievable. It's great to be sober and in recovery and remember everything and get to experience all those moments and be able to put it all together, man, so people could see it. The thank you, Zach chants when I was asking about the meatballs. That was my funniest moment of the night. Was Michelle was standing over there. Michelle Reno was standing over there waiting to explain the meatballs, and I turned the mic on and I said, and they're like, thank you, Zach. And I said, no. Well, what I want to really know is who wants meatballs on their spaghetti or not, and raise their hands. And everybody raises their hands pretty much. And I'm like, go ahead and get it. And she's like, no, that is not the way we're gonna do this. And I'm like, oh shit, sorry, I was trying to help you out here. You know what I mean? But it wasn't my night. I, I'll put together stuff like this so we can have those nights any time of the week, man. It's my pleasure. And I have a great team, man. That's what I always say about the team. So I'm very proud of my team, man, all the way around. I'm proud of every member of my team. And John Cooper, man, that guy he could walk into a building with shit, all like literal shit on the walls and make it look like a fucking palace. You know what I mean? Like that guy puts in a lot of hard work over there in doing what he's doing. So working with him in that office so that we're now able to do events over there. I was glad those were the first 2 events we were able to do back in that beautiful building, and we came back. Today's practice was great, man. But all in all, I'm just blessed. I realize that every day. I'm blessed to be in recovery. I'm blessed to be sober. I'm blessed to have this second chance to be able to do that. And I love listening to the flowers dropped by the guys inducting and the inductees, and I love hearing the stories, man. Like Ugly said at the end of his blog, it's like, man, it was just a great night, man. It's just great to see all the guys. I can't wait till next year because I know NorCal wrestling is going to be bigger and better by next year, and there's going to be just so much more. What are we going to do next year for the Hall of Fame? Is it going to be the Hall? Is it going to be the Hall of Fame? Is it going to be the Prospect Cup? Is it going to be is King of Indies going to be involved? You know what I mean? We don't know. There's so much we can do, but we're going to make it bigger. We're going to make it better, and it's going to be something big because it needs to be. So the answer to the podcast, whatever, we need to go back and watch what one that was, where we were talking about this, because it was right before we came up with the let's do this. But yeah, it's fucking important, right? So let's make it fucking important and pry it out of my cold dead hands, man, because I don't plan on retiring from anything anytime soon. I'm gonna be hobbling out on a fucking crutches managing somebody all the way up until the end or doing commentary. But close us out here with about 1 minute and 3 seconds left, Paul. Here, closing thoughts. We got so much more to talk about, I'm pretty sure, but not today.
Of course. Right. Yeah. Just, I guess the closing thoughts is just the culmination of, of that event and just the memories that were made, listening to the stories. And like you said, people giving and receiving flowers, accolades for things that they've done in this business, and especially in our scene, impacts that were made by these different stories, and hopefully it was a learning experience as well for a lot of the young guys. I know a lot of when the guys were talking on stage, it was a lot of things that were especially for the guys that are young, and hopefully those
Mhm.
lessons were learned, man. So, oh man. So I guess for me, Paul Zadora, Zach Primetime Reeb, subscribe, motherfuckers.
Motherfuckers.
This
Thank
we're
you,
going.
Adam. Thank you, Bobby. And thank you, Dana.
We're going over.